You are listening to the new man beyond the Macho Jerk and the New Age Wimp. Your host is men's coach Tripp Lanier.
When you tell her she's being hormonal, why does it typically erupt into flames? Why do heated conversations have a tendency to spiral into infernos? And is it more important to win the fight or find a solution? It's not always sunny in the Lanier household, and on this particular day, I stepped on a landmine. After the fire was brought under control, Allison thought it might be helpful to turn on the mics and explore what caused the fire, as well as what we did to put it out. But to be honest, like a moron, I ended up pouring gas on it again during this very conversation.
I feel more nervous right now because I'm not used to this setup. So and it's rushed because you're like, let's do it this morning.
Let's do this.
Yeah,
That's where the energy is. You're not prepared. I love it.
Do you?
I do. Well, I like your preparation, but I also like it when you're a little bit on your heel. It's sweet to me.
I have preparation E, preparation F,
what?
G, and then H. All right, you wanted to talk about we were talking this morning, and I was really right about something, and you were like, we should do a podcast about that. And then I got nervous. I was like, wait a second, what's she on to? So, all right, I'll roll with it. What do you want to talk about?
Well, the reason that I wanted to just jump on the podcast now instead of try to like, hey, we should do a podcast about this one day is that we had energy here today. And the energy that we had was...
When you say energy, we had a tension.
Yeah, there was tension and lots of potential for having, projections or miscommunication or whatever based on.
We had a thing this morning between us.
We had a thing between us. Yeah. Okay.
You want
me to tell you about it?
No,
yeah. I'll tell you I'm happy to tell you from my perspective what my experience was.
I'll just cut this out. Anyway, that's a great perspective.
Yeah. I knew it. You make anything to make you look good. So yeah, when you woke up, you came out and I told you that I had a dream about you and the dream was activating. It was, created a lot of fear in me. It was basically an abandonment dream, right? It was about you.
Well, let's hear about it.
You have the same tone of voice where you're like, nice.
Well, this is the best part of the whole story. It's the best part. It is the dream.
So
for me.
For you, yeah. So in the dream, you essentially just made a very quick decision that you were done with me and our daughter and the life that we had, and mainly because there was a fine young thing or 20-something.
I prefer woman, not object, thing.
Oh, thank you. You're absolutely right. A young woman full of...
Wow. It's 2021, baby. You gotta let go of this patriarchy objectification of women, okay?
Yeah, you hang on to that idea for a moment while I get into what we got into later today.
Okay.
So, so I let you know that
this woman that doesn't exist, by the way.
And the woman that doesn't exist in the dream, I was skillful about that. So in the dream, somebody caught your fancy. You decided you wanted to pursue them.
I was out.
And in the dream, I really felt you leave. And then you had an exchange with that person and you invited connection. Mm-hmm. And then we were back at our hotel room or wherever we were traveling in the dream. And then she called but right before she called,
that's how you know it's a dream. Somebody called.
I was talking with you in the dream about like, what are you doing? What is this about? What's going on? And you essentially saying like, yeah, I want to pursue this. And then she called And then we both saw that it was her that was calling. And I was like, what? Are you really choosing this? And you basically were like, yes, I'm done. Like, you didn't say I was done, but you're basically like, yes, I'm out of here. I can't remember what at this point in the day, I can't remember what the specifics were, but anyway, I was very angry with you in the dream.
Sure.
I went from like, hurt and confusion and to anger, rage, and sadness and all of that. And like trying to get your attention to get you to come back into contact with me. And you were just like not having any of it. So when you woke up this morning, I conveyed that to you and I let you know that
by throwing a plate at me.
You're such a liar. Oh my God. So for the record, for the audience listening,
you were very skillful.
Yeah, I'm laying in bed when I wake up. I lay in bed, I look over at you, and I'm still like, I wake up out of my anger. I'm like, the rage was what woke me up.
That son of a bitch.
And so I look over you and I'm like, all right, wait a minute. This is not that. Like, we are present moment. That was a dream. Here I am. I get back to presence. I see you right next to me and all your twerpiness and all your rascaliness.
My drooling.
And I even had a moment where I was like, if I tell him about this dream, he's going to start making jokes because this is what you do. You poke the fucking skunk.
Sometimes.
All the time. And so I was even like aware of like, all right, this is what's going to happen. So let me get real clear on what feels vulnerable from a dream and what's real. So I bring it to you. And sure enough, you start making jokes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No,
you go ahead. You like the spotlight. You like being like Mr. Cool. So what were some of the jokes you remember?
I don't remember any of the particular jokes. I remember being curious, like, well, I wanted to hear about this woman. Like, yeah, I got hooked up. So I want to at least enjoy a little bit of it if I'm going to have to kind of take some shit for an hour in the kitchen in the morning.
Except for you weren't taking shit for an hour in the morning.
You're right. Thanks for the correction.
I was really skillful.
I'm certainly not taking any shit now. So
I was really skillful, and you were choosing to do what you always do, which
playful.
is like, damn, that sounds great. What's her number? Where is she? What's she look like? Yeah, that sounds about right. Like, yeah, I'd totally, like some version of, yeah, I would totally do that.
That sounds kind of mean.
It sounds kind of mean. Wow, what reflection you have in this moment. So that's what was happening. We started to sort of through the play.
But that really wasn't the big conversation.
It escalated my activation. And then this, you might need to help fill in the part, but it escalated my activation around it. And I started saying, you're being mean. Like, that's so mean. And
while we're laughing.
Yeah, because that's, we can play that way.
You were trying to squirt me with the water bottle.
We weren't there yet.
Okay. Like I'm a chihuahua getting ready to shit on the floor.
No, I did something and you were like, well, no wonder I would want to leave or something. And then I was like, that's really mean. And then you were like, well, somebody's hormonal today.
Uh-oh.
And then I was like, fuck you.
Stepped on that landmine.
You're going to turn it into this? Really?
Right.
I'm like in my activated, sensitive place and I'm trying over here. I've been nothing but generous, kind, skillful, peaceful. And you've done nothing but poke the fucking like activation in me.
Right.
And now I start to set a bigger boundary. I start to be fiery about it. Even still, I'm like, that was hurtful. I'm not saying... I think at one point I was like, you're being an asshole, but
yeah.
Then suddenly again, it was me and being hormonal, and it wasn't like you weren't taking responsibility of like, yeah, I'm totally poking the fucking skunk here.
Okay.
And so then we got into making a discernment about what's really going on what was my how did it turn serious? Like how did I actually start to get
right
serious about the thing?
Right. We went from playful to, oh, wait a second, playful. There's something really, there's actually a nerve.
This is really not cool. Yeah.
Okay.
And that was when you named being hormonal.
Okay. Okay. Yep. We'll go there. And so of the things that we talked about.
Do you see another avenue? Was it the one before?
Well, the conversation, how it occurred to me, right? Normally we can play with stuff. Right? That's more of the norm, is that we can be pretty playful with one another, and we can kind of jab one another, and it's playful. It's rare that we actually truly get under each other's skin and hurt one another when we're playing with that.
Right.
Okay. And so what happened this morning was I started to sense, and I was still in this kind of unconscious place of being playful and, being adolescent essentially. Mm-hmm. And then I started to realize, like, you weren't being playful anymore. You were actually hurt.
I was feeling, the jokes were feeling hurtful.
Right. So they were occurring to you as that way.
That hurt place.
And so the remark, when I said, oh, you're being hormonal, as we discussed, like, we got to the bottom of that, which was that felt dismissive to you, as if I'm saying, when I say you're being hormonal, like, reflecting that doesn't, where I'm coming from, and I know that this can seem that way, depending on the context, but it's like, you're being hormonal, therefore whatever you're thinking or feeling or wanting doesn't matter. It's invalid. You're just being crazy.
That's why, and we did unpack that. And I was saying my whole experience and everyone else, every other female I've ever known, that's a dismissive statement.
Yeah. You don't matter. What you're feeling doesn't matter.
And you were saying, like, no, that it does matter. I am actually trying to get your world. And for me, that's understanding that things like the volume's being turned up on certain things, like you're getting and for me, I was like, there's no distinction. There's no part of my experience of someone calling me that being something that is respectful or with regard, or it's like, there's no experience of it not being dismissive.
Right. You're being hormonal means, oh, you really shouldn't feel what you're feeling right now.
You're just crazy. Like you're
being
just
crazy.
A crazy woman.
So I get to dismiss you. I don't have to actually have compassion for you. That's typically how it comes across. Okay. Yeah. You don't matter is the core message.
Yeah, it's pejorative.
Whatever you're feeling doesn't really matter because you're being hormonal. Just go away. Yeah. Go watch something on YouTube. Go watch puppies. All right. So go watch puppies. But
that's pretty dismissive.
Exactly. That's the dismissive element. Like, just get out of here because I'm actually uncomfortable with you being this way. Right. So now it's not a safe place. All right. So what was in this case this morning was more like, oh, wow, you're in a hormonal state. You're actually feeling this because normally there's time. There's 1 week out of the month I'm not funny with you. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you think I'm different that week, but I'm not that different. I'm just not funny to you anymore because, there's something going on for you.
As a side note, I do think that you sense that that's going on, and then you actually choose things that I think are not funny.
Like I've got a whole set of material.
You try to ferret, because I've watched you do this with friends. You ferret out the place where they're uncomfortable or can't have humor.
That's probably true.
And that's actually my experience. That's what I believe is going on.
I do that. Well, let's just say, let's see what happens, right? Let's see if the airbags go off.
Let's see what happens.
It's the Johnny.
Let's just set this.
It's the Johnny Knoxville in me.
Pull this pin on this grenade and see what happens.
Let's see what happens. See if the airbags go off. Okay. So yes, that's true. But I don't necessarily have like a whole other set of material that I pull out when you're hormonal. All right. So we're back to hormonal. What was going on for you? Like it became evident to me. It's like, oh, we're joking around. We're doing our kind of normal joking thing around. And in a place of like, oh, isn't that interesting? But then it was like, oh, wow, this isn't that much fun for you. You're actually being impacted by this. This is hurting you.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I made the remark like, oh, you're being hormonal, but not, and go with me here is like my side it wasn't so much as being dismissive as like, oh, this is an explanation for why this is hitting you a different way. But you went another way and assumed, you made the assumption that I was being dismissive. Yes. When in actuality, it was more like, no, I understand that we're in a different we're in a different part of the playground now. What normally is funny or what we can normally do in a playful way doesn't really jive at this time because this is the state we're in.
In your world, let me make sure I'm hearing you right. In your world, you were naming that in an effort to understand how the context changed.
Yes.
What's the water I'm swimming in?
Right. And the same thing if I'm hangry, right? Or if I'm in a lousy mood or whatever's going on, it's like, I can't joke around in that time. Like your jokes are not that funny to me. And once I eat, it's like, oh, okay, that was kind of a thing, but it's really not that big of a thing. And I've got a lot more space to deal with. So I've got a lot of compassion around that because I have my own things that go up and down. So it wasn't meant to be dismissive. I understood that you took it that way, and that was not the intention.
Yeah. And that's what led the whole other, this is how, the reason that I thought this was valuable, not only being able to skillfully get someone's world, period, but how one thing suddenly quickly can roll into, it compounds quickly, because that happens with couples. It's like, well, we started here, but now there's this, and this going on.
Wounding. It's like because think about what's that. When I say you're hormonal, I'm now just told you don't matter. What you're feeling doesn't matter. And that's another wound on top of what was already kind of there. So now it's like,
even though for you had no intention of being like that, for me, the entire life experience of myself and any other female I've ever been with, that is a dismissive statement.
Right. You don't matter. What you're feeling doesn't matter, or it's not valid, or it's crazy. Now, on the flip side, me noticing that is helpful for me to say, hey, do I want to go along on this ride with her? Do I want to fuse and merge into her reality? And the answer is no. I'm not going to go on that road with you. But I can be respectful that that's where you are. So if you're feeling a heightened sense of things, and the same thing if I'm hangry or something, I don't want you to get on this ride with me.
Right.
I don't want you to be reactive and pissy with me. So it's like, oh, okay, here we are. You're in that state. Got it. I'm not going to go on that ride with you.
And what can happen with many people, and what it happened with me this morning, is they don't necessarily know the water they're swimming in.
Right.
And so what we did was when I was like, we just kind of stopped, slowed down, and pieced apart this secondary reactive thing around the naming of hormonalness. And when we did that, you were saying exactly what you just said of like, oh, I'm just trying to get the world you're in right now, and I don't know if I need to join you there.
Because in the past, I've probably said it in a way to be dismissive. Let's be honest.
Fucking-absolutely. Like...
I just want to let you know that I've done that in the past.
Thanks. You seem so woke right now. I really appreciate that. So
I'm woke. WOAK. That's
woak. Anyway, but the distinction that I thought was really valuable for me, as much as for us, was the difference in how it landed when you said, I'm genuinely trying to get your world. I'm genuinely wanting to understand, like, what's the concern? Is there something is there a fire that needs to be put out?
Right.
Is there something that's going on? Is there an urgency here? And that's part of what you were naming when you were saying, like, through the lens of hormonalness, in your experience of me, is sometimes it seems like there's a fire that needs to be put out, or it seems like there's an urgency, or it seems like there's like something really concerning. And so in your effort to get my world, you were saying like, I'm trying to find out if that's if there's something here, if there is a fire, if there is a concern, and that's a very different experience for me. When you said that to me, I was like, oh my God, that really helps me understand and pinpoint, come back to the primary issue, which was the concern is I'm feeling really vulnerable. I'm activated in this sort of place based on like this dream I had. And then the joking is feeling like it's weaving its way into the hurtfulness that I felt in the dream.
Right.
And like your inquiry specifically of like, what's the concern or what's the urgency or what's the fire was what it helped me orient towards the water I was swimming in and what was actually the primary concern here. And that was really, really different than just making a comment about the thing that was activating, like your hormonal.
Got it. All right. So here, let me see if I can simplify this a bit. Because what was happening was you and our interactions started to move from playful to more aggressive, like when dogs are playing in the backyard, and then and then there's more like the teeth start to show a bit more. It's like, oh, we're not playing anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's confusing. It's like, wait a second, I thought we were playing, and one dog's showing the teeth, and the hair goes up on that. It's like, oh, wait a second. So now we're moving into this kind of secondary, I'm going to call it the secondary realm, which is now we're showing anger, we're showing aggression, we're showing, this defensiveness. Uh-huh. And it's like, well, wait a second, we were just playing, and now there's this dynamic. There's going to be jabs that are going to be thrown. It's this, I'm going to try and hurt you. You're hurting me, so I'm going to try and hurt you. Mm-hmm. There's that thing that's going on. Mm-hmm. And that can be confusing if one side's just being playful and it doesn't understand why, whoa, why'd you just take a shot at me like that? Because that wasn't playful. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that was happening for you. It didn't feel playful for you anymore. That's what I was hearing. And so you started to respond to me in that aggressive
And how did I do that?
It wasn't so much that it was aggressive. It was more like, trying to take myself back there. I could tell that there was a sense of, I need you to feel my pain.
I don't have that experience, but I don't have that recollection that was what was going on. We talked about how there are other people that do that. Mm-hmm.
But I did feel that in you. Not that you wanted to inflict that pain on me.
There was a desire for you to understand where I was, my world, you to and feel that this was impacting me.
Okay, got it. And that's more the primary thing, right? So the primary thing is let's think of it as like a fire. I think Robert Augustus Masters talked about this ages ago on this. But essentially, like, there's the fire, which is here's my true hurt. Here's my fear.
Yeah.
Here's my deep concern. Those are all really vulnerable places to be. We don't typically show that. Yeah. What we show is our teeth. What we show, go look at people's comments on the internet. It's all fucking, I'm going to show you my teeth. I'm going to show you, but we rarely say, hey, this hurts, or I'm really scared, or I really care about this and I want everybody to get along. It's more like the secondary thing, the smoke of the fire that we see. And when we get entangled in that, we don't solve the problem. Mm-hmm. So what was occurring to me is we were starting to do the secondary, getting stuck in secondary world where we were going back and forth and missing one another. And I was stepping further and further into the shit by saying things like,
continuing to joke and jest. And I kept saying, that's hurtful. Don't do that. That's mean.
I didn't get
Stop being an asshole.
I heard stop being an asshole. Okay. And so then it was what's really going on. And we got into the primary part of it, which is, hey, this is really hurtful. And we started talking about ways that's where we tend to resist not showing or not revealing what's really going on for us. And I understand it's a really unsafe place, especially if the other person is not present or if the other person doesn't seem to care. They're joking or they want to be dismissive. The last thing you want to do is say, hey, stop. That hurts.
I'm in alignment with you in what you're saying about what happens and what we don't normally do. And I think that there's room for both. Like there's room for like, yeah, we don't normally do this, so let's do more of this. That's what I'm essentially hearing you imply. Is that correct? Like we don't normally say we're hurt or we're feeling vulnerable or we're feeling afraid. We usually show our teeth. And we should try not to do that. We should actually say what's actually going on, right?
If there's genuinely a problem, and now we're stuck in that loop.
Let's say what's going on.
Right.
Yeah, and I was making the I'm in agreement with you on that. And I was making the distinction that this morning I believed that I was sharing that, and you didn't see that because you were joking, you were playing, and you thought that was okay to do.
Yeah, it didn't occur to me that you were really in that vulnerable of a place.
Yeah.
Until we were much further into the conversation. Because, I think you essentially started it out with, oh, you're going to love to hear about this dream. Well, like it was this kind of off the cuff kind of thing. Not like, I think if you'd come to me like, wow, I like came and looked at me in the eye and be like, I had a tough dream last night and I'm in a really wobbly place.
Yeah, for sure.
I would have been like, oh shit.
That's right. And I said you're going to love it. Like you're going to have a heyday with your jokes on
And then
this.
I did.
And then you did. That's right. That's because that's what you do. Yeah. So I guess my point, I just wanted to make the distinction between you and I, and because it would be confusing for a listener, I think, if we just rolled right into us talking about the general coupleship, partnership, what can generally happen out there versus what we were just trying to name in here. So if we want to move to that, great, let's do it.
Do you feel like there's anything else we need to get on the same page about what happened this morning?
No, but I didn't want to move so far away from us quite yet. That there was just the desire to bring in this primary, secondary, or issue, or like what's the fire with us first. Right. And then I thought it would be more helpful, like it easier to follow. If it was like, well, let's stick with our story first, and then we can go to the general, like what we work with other people, or, that sort of thing.
And I think this is where just being unconscious, not being present. I wasn't in a place where, I woke up or whatever, and just like being in a place where I'm just not really in tune with what's going on. Yeah. Not really reading the room, but also like not getting a lot of indicators from you.
Yeah.
And I get that you were wanting to be in a different place than you were.
Well, and I genuinely was in a different place until the jokes started it activated. The jokes were activating. So I started in a different place than I ended up. Yeah. And so that was,
and that was where I was like, oh, wow, you're really feeling this.
Right. And it was like, I wasn't at first, but now I am.
Yeah. And that's when it was like, oh, you're in a place, you're feeling that stuff. It's the week where I'm not funny. Okay, well, it's a different game. We can't play. Okay, what's going on now? You're giving me this look.
Like the week where I'm not funny feels fucking dismissive. So hey, we're not in that week. We're not in that week. That's actually, we had this conversation. This was part of the conversation. I was like, we're not in that fucking week. Like I was genuinely okay. And then you came with the jokes and that activated me. And that's all that happened.
That's all it was.
It's not because I'm fucking hormonal. Like
oh, no.
You really want to make it about that to get the context. Let's come back a week from now. But let's just say, let's just consider the fact that sometimes we hurt each other's feelings when we don't mean to, and that can cause big emotions. That's it.
That's it.
That's all it is. And so that's what you saw in my look just now. Was like, motherfucker, here we go again.
I was being kind of playful. All right. Still testing the
Don't be
the
taking
water.
your shit out of the hole.
I know. Thank you for the correction.
But the places where I relaxed completely, even when I was in that, like, I'm feeling tense and I'm feeling upset and I don't feel seen and I feel dismissed. The place where I completely unwound was when you were like, I really want to understand what's the concern here. Something just showed up.
Right.
I don't know what it is. I thought we were doing this other thing and it was okay. And suddenly it's not okay. So what's not okay? And it was that kind of language. It was not the language of this is the week I'm not funny. It was not the language of, oh, you know,
right,
hormones or whatever, right? That's not the language. The language was to me, it felt like you actually wanted to meet me and wanted to understand instead of what feels dismissive to me.
Right. So look, here's what happened. In that moment, it's snapping me out of this autopilot, childish, adolescent thing.
Yeah.
And like, oh, get into this moment. Start really paying attention because something's off or something's up. There's indicators in the room and I need to pay attention. Okay. Mm-hmm. Number 2, get curious.
Yes.
And instead of needing you to be different, instead of needing you to change, like, oh God, just why do you got to be this way? Why do you got to be a bitch? Why do you got to be emotional? Okay. What's going on? Let's talk about it. I want to understand what's really going on for 2 things. I want to understand what's going on for you. I also need to know if we're really in a situation, if this is really a fire as we said, if there's really some urgency there. And so getting present and then dropping the shoulds about how things should be in this moment and getting open to what is actually happening. And
what I am hearing, yes. And what I'm hearing, even like whether it's the meta, sort of like what's housing all of this, or like the framework that you're looking for or through, or whether this is where you start even before presence, which is, do I want to connect and be with this person right now? Like, do I, meaning like, do I want to really want to connect here? Mm-hmm. Do I want to be an ally, a shoulder to shoulder? Do I want to be a partner? Do I want to be on their team? Or do I want to keep up this adversarial, like them over there, me over here, get your shields up, like look out, here's the shit coming. Because it's a real different lens if we're saying, oh, here we go, there she's being a bitch again, or oh, there come the hormonal week.
How do I get out of this? Like, what's the easiest way to get out of this? How do I get
out of it? Like, oh, brother. Like, there's that. And the whole orientation of that is like, not you, not this.
Right.
And instead of, I'm going to actually look you in the eye, I'm going to get present, I'm going to genuinely feel curious, I'm going to ask what's going on over there.
And, it could have been another way. It could have been, I was full, or I've got a commitment, and it could have been like, hey, pause. Something's really going on here. I'm not sure what it is. I don't have space within me right now to deal with that. I'm activated, or I'm just whatever. I'm out of it. I've got someplace to be or whatever. I'm going to choose to be someplace else. But at least just to meet you and be like, look you in the eye and be like, hey, I see you.
That's right.
I get that there's something going on here. I'm not in a place to do that right now.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to do it right now.
Yeah.
But I will do this later or not. But that still sends you the message of, hey, you matter. Number two, I want to be connected. I want to figure this out. I want to get to the bottom of it and clear this up, which is different than I'll just say whatever I think my partner needs to hear.
Right. Yeah.
And then, either capitulate or whatever.
Roll my eyes or bitch at the boys later about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a big part. It's still coming back to, I want to be present with you. I want to be appreciative of where you are. Doesn't mean I'm going to jump in the fire with you.
That's right.
But I'm also going to make my response of like, hey, I can do this, or I'm not going to do this. Or, whatever that might be.
Yeah. And true also for me, even though I didn't have the capacity, one thing that I love is to be able to take these little moments of like, can I zoom out and just name there's something happening here that wasn't here a moment ago, or I'm noticing this is suddenly feeling tense and serious, and I can't parse it apart right now, but I just need to name that. And so that even just a little narrative, like narrating, like a narrative around like, I just need to name this thing.
Right. Which is not safe typically in any of the relationships I was ever in before you. It was like acknowledging the truth was never really okay. It was always about, we're in a place, so I can't even acknowledge that I'm frustrated. I can't even acknowledge that I don't know what's going on, but it just doesn't feel right. Or that wasn't an okay place to be. It always kind of came out in these side door things, the jabs and the jokes and or the sidebar complaints, always the constant complaining, all that secondary level stuff.
And so this is where we can move away from us and move into some of when we were kind of reflecting on, wow, this could be a helpful podcast, was we were thinking of either couples that we've worked with or people we've known in our lives where if they feel hurt, there's not
okay. I would say they don't even know that they feel hurt. Like I'll say how it occurs for me.
Okay.
Is I will be aware that I am doing this behavior, and it's usually complaining. It's usually little jabs, little sarcastic, little shots at you. Mm-hmm. Like you leave your shit around the place, even though we just had the cleaners come in the house, looked amazing for 20 minutes. Okay. Mm-hmm. There's a jab right there. Right.
Yep.
And I see your smile, but I know there's a bite behind it. Okay. But the point being is that instead of saying, hey, honey, can I talk to you for a second? Would you be willing to do ABC? Here's why. It really matters to me to have a nice, clean house and to keep it orderly. And we just spent this money to have somebody come in. It would mean a lot to me. Could we do ABC? That's a much more vulnerable place to come from. I've got to make the effort to actually get in touch with what I really want And here's the key part. Make the effort to get in touch with what I actually want instead of like, God damn it, she's doing this thing again. It's the flip. I can always point out the problem. That's easy. Most of us have a problem orientation, but flipping it back to, okay, if I don't want that, then what do I want?
Well, and
that's
also,
the effort. And there's also vulnerability there where I say, hey, honey, would you be able to do ABC? That's where you can reject me. That's where you can joke back at me and deflect me. And like I did with you this morning, is kind of brush me off and dismiss me. So that's it in a nutshell, and we can pick it apart.
Yeah. I don't want to skip a step here for the people that are like wanting to actually try this stuff. What you were saying is like, I said, oh, I feel hurt. And you said, I don't think people feel this way. Like people aren't able to have awareness. Yeah. They're not able to, they're not like, they can't identify. They don't have that awareness. They don't have that ability to pause and be like, what's going on here for me? And the primary. And then immediately just for you get in touch with what you want. And for me, how it can...
Well, here's what, let's put it in. You were
encouraging getting in touch with what you want.
Yeah, it's noticing I'm doing the secondary thing. There's a thing that I'll do, which is the complaining or the bitching or the criticizing or whatever. And then recognizing, oh, wait, when I do this stuff and it muddies the water, I know that I'm not really addressing the problem. I know that I'm not really addressing my main concern, that primary thing, which is this other thing. So I'm going to, instead of doing this complaining, bitchy, criticizing thing, I'm going to get in touch with this primary thing and make that request, make that proposal, come to you as a more an adult in that scenario and say, hey, let's solve the problem from here, instead of the, God damn, why can't you be this? Who says I got to do that? And now we're back and forth at that YouTube comment, fucking Facebook bullshit, like back and forth at each other, essentially. Like we're not solving the problem. We're just trying to prove a point. Yeah. Yeah. I definitely can see that. I'm thinking in terms of people that think that, if they can simply be in touch with what they want, that's their primary issue. And that's still secondary to what the primary issue is. And the reason that I say it, and it's not that it's not the solution. We're talking about solution focused, which is great. Like ultimately we want to be able to make requests and name what it is we're wanting differently or needing more of or whatever it is. Or set boundaries. Hey, it's not okay to talk to me that way.
Yeah, that's right. Like, please. Yeah, that's right. Not okay. Like, I get that you're having a tough day, but you don't get to treat me like this or whatever. Right. Totally. And when it comes to, I think for some people, there's not even they can't meet that person with their request unless they get in touch with that primary why.
Exactly. And this is where most of us are kind of in this victimhood thing where it's like, if I just complain, you're going to figure out what I want instead.
Right.
We really do believe this. This is kind of how our culture works. Like problem. And then it's somebody else's job to say, well, then what's the solution? Yeah. And let me figure it out. Yeah. And then we live in this constant state of disappointment. Yeah. So I agree with you that noticing that behavior, I'm doing that complaining problem orientation, but then coming back and saying, okay, well, if I don't like this, then what do I want? And it's not like, I want my partner to be this way. It's like, no. What do I want? What's the thing that I want differently? And that's where most of us have not done that work. Yeah. I talk about this in my book, which is like from an early age, we protest when somebody comes in and sticks a tit in our mouth. Right. Yeah. And then we get fed. Like we never have to say, hello, may I please have a boob? I'm hungry. Right. Or I need a blanket.
Well, the crying actually is that. But it's just the nonverbal, like hello over here.
But, but it's still somebody else's job to figure out what that is. Is it boob? Is it blanket? Is it new diaper? It's still somebody else's responsibility to figure out.
When they're pre-verbal.
Well, I would say that a lot of us never get beyond that. We just get stuck at the protest stage. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it can be exhausting to be in that protest stage and say, okay, I'm going to pivot here. This is off. We're getting stuck in this, naggy kind of hanging out. We're hanging out at this place where we're kind of, salty with one another. Okay, I've got an opportunity here. What is it that I want instead? If I don't like how things are going here, it's up to me to make a proposal, to make a request. You might say no. You might dismiss me. You might be whatever. I'm not asking you for permission. I'm not coming to you as mom, but I am saying, hey, you know what? Here's what I would like instead. And so I notice that this is stuff I get caught in fucking daily. Here's the critical thing. Here's this thing where I start whatever. And I've got to flip it. And there's also places where you've been great with me and say, do you have a request? And that usually puts a stick in the spokes immediately as well and jerks me back into the present moment. Oh, right. What is it that I want here? Instead of, I better go and figure out the solution to your problem for you.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that that's what happened this morning to kind of tie this all up was, oh, wait a second. We got caught up in unconscious wounding stuff back and forth. And we're missing each other. Okay, one of us get back into being present, getting in touch with curiosity. Okay, what's really going on here? And then let's address the real concern. And then immediately, it was like, whew, oh, right. Okay, we can deal with this, and we got out of that cycle. Yeah,
and the only other thing that I want to add to that really made a big difference for me was there was a lot of nonverbal language that happened. You shifted from like doing your phone and looking out the window to sitting and looking at me, and I was sitting and looking at you. And, like us being like me, like I'm unloading the dishwasher and you just doing this thing. And we're just sort of like in each other's shared space.
But not present.
And well, I mean, to the degree that like when the need was there for presence, for that, like I'm with you feeling, and that I'm with you, I want to make contact.
I'm really here with you
on your
now.
Team. That I wasn't able to visibly experience that until that point where when the curiosity came, I visibly saw and I was able to feel in my nervous system. I was able to feel in your eyes, in your eyebrows, your facial expression, your body, like you were genuinely interested. And that made a huge difference too. So there's also some of that primary, secondary stuff that happens non-verbally a lot. So I just wanted to speak to that.
Yeah, I think, and just the last thing is so many guys that I work with are kind of in this place like, what do I say? What do I say so that she doesn't get upset? Or what do I say? They really think that there's a string of words that you can put together. I don't know. It's just like it. But so there's content versus connection. I think a lot of guys really think that it's about content.
Yeah.
I can say certain things, and that's what's going to make the shift. Whereas it's more like, how can I demonstrate that I'm connected? Yeah. And the key word here is demonstrate.
Yeah, and that's the presence, really. I mean,
right. And connection is really, I would say, how do I connection? What does that mean? It's really like you matter.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not going and buying flowers. It's I'm fucking here. You matter more than the phone. You matter more than what's going on out the bird feeder.
That's right.
I'm paying attention to you.
And notice the difference of you matter, I'm here versus what all now? Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Ugh, what?
So content versus connection, instead of worrying about what to say, just get really present and be right there.
Yeah.
And just demonstrate that you matter. And this is where I think this translates to business, this translates to so many other things, because actual connection is so rare these days that when you really do genuinely connect with people, you will be in the stratospheric world of different. You will be so unique to actually practice that.
Yeah.
But I find that that's been really helpful for some of the guys that I work with, and myself included. It's just, okay, don't get caught up in the content of what's happening. Just come back to connection.
I do that too.
And then watch it just drop
it does.
Right in.
It's like it slows way down, and it helps people be like, oh my God, this feels so good. Okay. All right. I love you. Thank you. I think that was fun and good. Was it?
I'm going to act like I turned this off because you usually say something really cool after I turn it off. So I just turned it off. I turned it off. No, it's off. No, it's not. The red lights are off. You can keep talking. You can just keep talking like you always do, baby.
I'm not. I'm done. And I can see it's still recording. No. I'm not falling for that.
It's like... You
have a client in 9 minutes. You need to go.
All right. Gotta go.
All right. Here I am caretaking.
I'll bitch at you. Stop caretaking me. If these interviews are helping you, please leave a positive review on whatever podcast app you use so that others can discover the show more easily.